Hello, everyone, and welcome to part one of my interview with Riot Max, the commissioner of the LEC, to talk about all sorts of stuff. We've actually filmed this one after the part two because we want to talk about some of the Schalke stuff, which is now public information. So, first off, Max, thanks for sitting down with me again. Really,
Happy to.
really, really great to have you here. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff over the course of these two parts, but starting with the Schalke sale. What has the process been like for you on that? I mean, how has it been like a headache? How's it been handled?
I want to say, like, first and foremost, it's been a difficult process simply because that is obviously something that nobody could have foreseen, right? This has been something that impacted a team in our league due to something that is out of our control and even out of the esports division's control, right? So being in that situation hasn't been easy, but I'm super thankful for having Schalke as a partner because they've been working so closely with us through the entirety of the process, right? As most people may not know, this is a process that already started last year, actually, when Schalke approached us very, very transparently and talked to us and said, like, hey, there is this potential scenario. Let's work together. And I was very much on the same page because I like to be prepared for all the potential scenarios. And that is also the reason that throughout the entirety of Schalke's communication, even up until the last couple of weeks, it's always been a talk about like a potential sale, right? Because there was nothing locked in yet. And this is obviously something, as they've been also communicating, that's not been driven on their own volition. That's been something that has been coming from the overall club structure.
So the team has now announced this week as we film that they will be sold to Team BDS, or the LEC slot will be sold to Team BDS. I know a lot of the people in my audience are North American fans, so perhaps you can provide and shed some light on Team BDS, who they are, where they come from, what their story is.
No, absolutely. So Team BDS is a Swiss organization. They've been participating in the LFL for a couple of years. They've been pretty successful there. And they're also participating in other titles, namely Rainbow Six. They've been crushing it, honestly. They've been like one of the best teams, if not the best team there. And especially their efforts throughout the ERL ecosystem in Europe, which is basically our equivalent to the academy model that you see in North America. Where we have local country leagues where teams get to participate, and then there's like a cross international competition in on the European level, and they've been doing very well there. They've been always very strong on like fostering their local roots, which is very much the identity that we also see for the entirety of the European ecosystem. So that naturally, obviously, make them a great partner to partner with.
Okay, so given that they are a big esports organization, or they found success through esports as a company, what was the decision to go with them versus finding another traditional sports group, or maybe even an entertainment group? And I don't know how much decision you guys have in making that versus Schalke, who obviously is trying to sell the slot.
Yeah, I can shed light on this. So from how the sales process looks like is that Schalke is the one who own the rights to the partnership slot, right? So they are also the ones who are orchestrating the sale itself, and they make the decision whether or not they want to sell, right? It's not a decision of the league. When it comes to potential partners, obviously, the league reserves certain rights when it comes to the evaluation process, as well as a veto opportunity in case that partners are presented that we just do not feel comfortable with, right? And in this case, though, BDS was like a very, very strong candidate throughout the entirety of the process. The process itself, as I said, took a couple of months. There are various steps in it where we obviously evaluate the overall fit, as I said, together with the league, the values that we have, especially the focus on the long term and not just looking at like short-term gains. And then obviously we also try to look at all the different facets of the business, right? Like the content strategy, the business plan, which is obviously incredibly important when it comes to driving towards sustainability. And last but not least, obviously, we also look at the brand itself, as well as the operational and structural evolvement of that team and organization. Because for most teams, let's face it, that are endemic, going into the LEC will be a step up, right? So they will have to adjust their structures accordingly to be able to play in a league where obviously we pride ourselves on being one of the premier sports properties out there.
So in the LCS, we've had this happen several times. This is the first time, I believe, for the LEC. And admittedly, you guys started about 1 year after us on permanent partnerships, colloquially franchising. What, how how difficult is it? How painful is this for the league whenever you have one of the established brands, have to depart, and then you have to kind of build something new again?
I mean, honestly, I have to say I don't know yet because, like, obviously, like this process has been going on, but like it's more important how they get going, right? Like so far, BDS have been fantastic throughout the entire process, and I have full confidence that they hit the ground running. It obviously will also, like in that partnership, take some resources from our end, but we're happy to invest those because we see that the drive towards a better future is there on both sides, right? So obviously this onboarding process is also that I'm something that I'm very proud of because we really like work together with partners. We just only like don't only sign a contract and say, okay, you go. No, we're working together with them very much on these topics. There's a lot of levels of professionalism that they obviously will have to get used to. And the league is not the same anymore as it was when we first launched the partnership in 2019, right? Like it evolved by a lot. And catching up will be a difficult task, and that's also something we have been transparent about with all our applicants. I'm confident, though, that BDS is more than capable and more than willing to master that.
Well, you mentioned that the league has changed since 2019, not the same league. I'm sure you have learned a lot through having the 10 partners that you do. So I guess my question for you is through this process, were you looking at it with a different lens? Were there lessons and things that you were looking for this time around that you didn't the first time?
Oh, totally. Even just when it comes to the process, first and foremost, I would have to say that the process naturally has to be different from my perspective, from starting a league from scratch where you get to select like 10 teams and you need to obviously make them match with each other and like make sure that you overall set yourself up for a successful start. Whereas if you only replace one team, I think there's less considerations when it comes to, okay, how does this match with this and this and that? It's not as much of a puzzle, right? It's more of a, okay, can we work with them as a partner? Are they aligned with our vision? And do we share the same goals and values, right? So in this case, obviously, I think we've learned a lot still from the initial process because it is a big undertaking. And as we've seen, obviously, in North America as well, it's a process that takes a long time. And we want to make sure that obviously we improve on that process and iterate to make sure that we get to a position where it's the best it can be. And it's also up to the standards that we pride ourselves on. And frankly, we don't get to experiment in that process very often because obviously these things only happen every couple of years. Yeah. So learnings will have to be like very forward facing.
Well, hopefully even less than every couple of years. I'm sure every commissioner would love it if, well, maybe there's a couple teams you'd love to see depart, but
no.
Okay. I get it. Sometimes I only bring it up because I know sometimes some of these owners and teams could be a bit of a pain in the ass. Carlos, for instance, he has a huge ego. Okay, so one of the interesting things to me, actually the most interesting thing to me, whenever the announcement hit, 26.5 million euros just out there in the Twitter post. That is not something that has ever happened in the LCS. What I assumed when I saw that there must be some, like maybe Schalke would disclose that publicly anyway and like financial reports or something. I assume there was some reason why that number was out there public in a way that like normally these types of things aren't. So what was that reason, or am I wrong? Was it just like a decision you guys were fine with?
From my perspective, I'm always fine with either way. From my perspective, as I said, like the process itself and the slot, the rights to the sale proceeds, they are owned by the respective team. So from my perspective, whatever information they are comfortable disclosing, I am more than happy for them to like put out there, unless it obviously like talks about anything that is confidential to the league. In this case, this is information that is privy to Schalke, right? It's their information, it's their money, it's their contract that they have with that new applicant. And I personally think it's very positive that they actually share this because it gives an understanding of how much the league has grown in the last couple of years. And it also gives a good understanding and it sends a very positive sign and signal to everybody out there looking at the league and who may not actually like be able to grasp the economics of esports. And this obviously, it's a nice number to look at.
I think for some people, I believe it was 10 million euro was the initial buy-in. So seeing it go to 26.5 so quickly, it's better than housing in LA, and that's very expensive and very quick. So I guess, is there any concern that some of the other folks in the LEC or some of the other teams might look at this and be like, hey, if we hop out now, we can make a pretty good chunk of money.
I would not say concern. This is obviously like an opportunity, and as I said, like it's their decision to make. When it comes to our teams and partners, I'm confident that all of us are aligned on the future trajectory of the league, and the success of the LEC has been incredible, honestly. And I can only be thankful to all our fans out there who have been growing the league that much since ULCS in 2018, now to the LEC in 2021. Those 3 years have been fantastic, amazing, incredible, add as many superlatives as you want. And this obviously is something that we do not foresee stopping, right? Like we are always challenging ourselves on a daily basis to get better and to provide a better product for our fans. And we will continue to do so. And so as we do this, I expect the league to grow. I expect the viewership to grow. And I obviously also, by definition, then also expect the values of the slots in the league to grow.
So what are next steps for you? Because obviously this gets announced. You guys have agreed to it. On the league side, is there much work to be done to integrate them into the league and maybe say goodbye to Schalke? Or is it mostly just between these two orgs, you think?
It's definitely between the two orgs, first and foremost. But once the season is over, we obviously will have a more direct approach there, simply because we want to make sure that BDS hits the ground running. They're aware of all the intricacies of the LEC. They're aware of all the rules, the regulations, everything they need to make sure that they do in the off season, right? Which obviously will be a very hectic start for them. And that is only roughly like 3.5 months away, right? So in that time period, it's more about like setting up and preparing. As I said, structurally also, they will have to adjust. They're potentially looking for additional hires. They're looking for additional people that they want to put on their staff list. These kind of things will take some time, right? As people know. And while in the initial phase, now it is between Schalke and BDS, now that everything is out there, basically. As I said, we are very proud on actually working together with them as a partner. And that means that we will very closely work together with them throughout the entirety of the second half of 2021, which starts tomorrow, to make sure that they have the best possible start to the 2022 season.
I was going to ask about the timing on all this stuff, and I appreciate you bringing up the 3.5 month timeline, because one of the things that I've heard from the LCS teams that come in, oftentimes those situations occur very last minute, they have a very limited time for them to like build their roster, build their staff, get ready, and all that stuff. And oftentimes I think the teams suffer when the season starts because they've got such a short time to make that happen. So I don't know if on the league side you guys were trying to put any kind of like timeline on this, or trying to make sure that BDS had enough time to get in and get everything going before the start of the off season, and obviously roster building, acquisition time.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's 100% important to us, right? We don't want to like have somebody sign on the 14th of November and free agency starts on the 15th, right? That is like just not feasible to transition unless it's like somebody who is already has a footprint in the ecosystem. In this case, fortunately, BDS does, right? So they have a team already in the LFL that has been performing reasonably well. They also have more players than just that team, right? So it's not like they're coming in completely without any foundation. And then obviously going into free agency, like a lot of the players will have their contracts run out. So they will also have the opportunity to acquire new people. It's just that I want to make sure that they are set up to actually like go once free agency hits and are in a position where they are able to compete with the other teams for potential talent, right? And they are not struggling to like still sort everything out operationally while other people are already signing contracts with players, right?
So they're just to confirm, the Schalke contracts will transfer over to BDS as part of this.
The Schalke contracts, at least the vast majority of them, run out for the 2022 season.
Gotcha, okay.
I cannot talk about any details between the contract between Schalke and BDS because obviously that is their information to potentially share.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I just didn't know if the league, I assume, would recognize one of those transfers if it occurred.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
We could do that. Otherwise, also maybe it's worth mentioning that a player wouldn't be stuck on Schalke, right? So we always have a clause on the contract that is mandated by the league where if for some reason the team gets removed from the ecosystem, right, and there's not a direct acquisition of both the team and the contracts, then they would be able to actually like exit the contract regardless, right? So they wouldn't be stuck on a non-existing Schalke team where they couldn't even play anymore, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Very good. Well, hey, thank you so much for sitting down to talk with me today. In part 2, I know that we'll end up talking about so many other things, including co-streaming and the LEC, sort of the path and chart of it going forward, and so much more. Is there anything that you want to say to any of the fans out there about the Schalke transition? Anything we didn't discuss over the course of the interview?
First and foremost, always big thank you to all the fans, because I've seen the reaction to the BDS announcement and it's been incredibly welcoming. Obviously, fans are also sad to see Schalke go. And I really like how this all went down, honestly. I really appreciate all our fans. I appreciate the transparency that Schalke as an organization and partner displayed. And I also appreciate all the other LEC partners who were so welcoming towards BDS. And I'm very much looking forward to actually having them compete in the league in 2022. And so should you. So tune in.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Max, for the interview. Really appreciate it. For everyone else, be sure to tune into part 2 right here on my YouTube channel. Howdy. It's me, Travis Gafford. I live in Southern California, but we don't have a Southern draw. I don't know where I'm going with this. Listen, please do me a favor and sign up for Alienware Arena. You can do so by clicking the link in the description of this video and then clicking at the very top of that page, very, very top, there's going to be a logo that just says Alienware Arena. If you click that, you can sign up. And if you've already signed up, please go check it out, because they basically have different stuff going through there every week that you can get. You can earn. You don't have to have an Alienware computer. In fact, this is a really great way to help support me by supporting Alienware without going out and spending money on a computer, because maybe you're not in a situation right now where you need to do that. Hopefully in the future you will be, for everyone. That would be great for me and you and Alienware. But this is a cool way that you can sign up. We love it when people sign up for Alienware Arena. Thanks for watching.